I love the second it started the chainsaw. It just immediately goes to town.
Oh yeah.
But, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where there's been a murder in the town, but it's don't worry, it's sunshine and rainbows everywhere. So, Bill, I'm Bill, and this is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
Everything's great at my Junes.
Yep. Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
that joke went over like a lead balloon.
I was like sitting here going like, I was trying to think of a comeback, and I'm like, it's like there is no comeback because that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Avoid the creepy guy out front that likes cabbages a bit too much, though. That's a reference that only some people
get. But yeah, fucking, it's been a week. I know we say that every time, but this time it's certain, it's true, because we had more trees fall in our yard.
Yeah, it's kind of mental how many times that seems to happen. Like when because I went to sleep when that storm happened, and I was like, wow, this is a bad one. And I woke up the next morning, and like the first thing I see is like Cindy posted a whole bunch of the pictures of just the carnage, and I was like, oh god, not again.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, because let me give you a brief rundown of the weekend I've had. All right, so like pretty much all last week, Cindy was in like horrible pain because she had a tooth that really needed to come out. So ultimately, like Sunday, Monday, she was just in pain, like wasn't able to do anything. Obviously, she couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep. It was awful. Tuesday, she goes into Boston to like the Tufts like medical, like a learning center or whatever. And basically, she got an extraction there, which was good. And I ended up taking that day off so she could go do that. And then Wednesday, I believe, right? And check my days right. I think it was Wednesday that we had the big storm.
I think so, because it was going. I think it.
Yeah, because it was Wednesday going into Thursday.
I think so. All I remember is I went to sleep and it was like, wow, this is a bad one.
Yeah, because we got that later on. So Wednesday, my uncle, who it's his house that we live in. Just like a catch up kind of thing. He's had an infection, but he's one of those kinds of old school, like, get the fuck out of my face kind of guys that no matter what we said, he wasn't gonna go to until things hit a breaking point. He wasn't going to go to the doctor. We've been on his ass. Fucking my grandmother's been on his ass. His sister, he just wouldn't do it. But then on Wednesday, like afternoon around like dinner time, he goes to come back from my grandmother's across the street. Fucking falls down, had bad fall, like fucked himself up. And that was the point where he was like, yeah, I gotta go. Like, no question about it. They bring him there and they tell him his infection is so bad that they had to amputate it. And it's still the infection might have gone deeper, so they might even have to do it higher up. So it's like, it's bad. Oof. And then like that night, like before, like after he had his fall was when we had the big storm. 2 trees come down. One lands on our house. The other one lands on Frankie's little play area outside. Ugh. So we've been spending the whole rest of the time working on trying to get the tree and shit cleaned up because we want to make sure the house is like fucking pristine, perfect when he gets back, which probably won't be for at least a month because he's got a lot of fucking recovery ahead of him.
Yeah, if anyone hears chainsaws in the background, that's why. So
yeah, that's what that is. They're chopping up the tree right now. And it's for reference sake, he's 70 years old. He's no spring chicken. He's got a long road ahead of him.
I hope poor guy. Hope all the best.
Yeah, it's been a fucking week, and it's good to break away and do something a little bit light.
Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah, because of all that, we're actually recording later than we usually do. So
it's actually the following day of what we would normally do.
Yeah, we're recording on a Saturday rather than a Friday. So somehow we're both more awake, yet I'm still really tired because I've been up since 3 because I worked this morning. Yay me.
Fun stuff.
And when I say worked, I mean I was there.
Yeah, I showed up and I clocked in.
I did.
I definitely did that much.
I did a job. Like I finished. a project, but I didn't like go crazy or anything because we don't have a lot of work as it is at the moment. So
Hmm.
I spliced an airline and added a second like airline connector to like one of the main airlines by like the machines I use a lot because I was
Hmm.
bored now. Well, because I found an extra airline just chilling under a cart. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, I could do something with this. And I'm like, I'm gonna just splice this in here. Did we need it? No, but I needed something to do. So
Yeah, fair enough. Can't argue with that.
yeah. So hopefully that doesn't explode because I really didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of wung it.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel that. Oh yeah, but anyways, um, unless you have anything else to update us on.
Not really. This has been one of those weeks where like I swear to God, I got every bill imaginable in the mail. Like got my water bill this month. I got my gas and electric. House payment
It's the end.
is
It's the end of the month. You know, it's
yeah. House payments coming up. My internet bill went up. That's fun.
oh
And
yeah,
they're like, hey, there's all these offers to lower it again. I'm like, it's like cool, thanks.
yeah.
Um, just like it was like everything at once. And I was like, oh, this is one of those months. Like, thankfully, water bill's only every like 3 months or so, so
There you go. That's something.
it's not as bad. It's just a lot of bills. Plus, I'm getting my tooth taken out in August, so I've got to prepare for that.
Oh,
Just a
when
whole lot.
abouts in August?
The first Monday, so
Okay.
that
I
shouldn't
was gonna
affect.
say. I hope that. I was gonna say maybe that'll line up with the week I'm going to Maine.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, next week's the 4th of July uh, long weekend, so
Hmm.
there's always that. If we might actually have time to record extra episodes
Yeah,
if need be.
that's
So
what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. This perfect opportunity.
yeah, but yeah. So this episode was kind of impromptu because originally we were going to cover the anime film Your Name, but that got pushed back, and then Matt texted me over the week and he was like, hey, I finished Persona 4 Golden, so maybe we should finally talk about that one. And I figure might as well do it while it's fresh. And
Hmm.
I always can talk about Persona 4 Golden. So we're going to structure this one kind of similar to how we did the Chrono Trigger episode, where we're not really, it's not going to be a full on retrospective of Persona 4. It's kind of going to be more kind of how we did that one, where it's going to be kind of like, this was Matt's first time playing the game, and I'm going to get his perspective, and I'll add in my own knowledge and stuff as we go along. So I'm gonna
Hmm.
hand the mic over to Matt and let him start from here.
Um. So yeah, I finished Persona. And actually, it took a lot less time to get through it than I thought. You were actually dead on with that. Where like, yes, it's a very long game, but you'd be surprised how fast it goes. 100% true. I honestly think it took the exact same amount of time to beat Persona as it did Chrono Trigger.
So the fun part
Which,
about Persona 4 Golden is playthrough 1 goes very quick. Playthrough 2, that's when things start to stretch a bit because then you're going to get all these different, because you're going to have max stats, you're going to be able to get all your personas right off the bat,
mhm,
all your money and stuff right off the bat. This is then where like the fun comes in because then you get to experiment with all the social links. You'll have persona on hand that'll help make those go faster. You'll be able to do all of the bonus stuff like right off the bat. Basically, it
mhm.
gives you a lot more time that you spent early on kind of like faffing about trying to get your stats all maxed out.
Yeah.
So you'll notice when you've eventually do a second playthrough sometime in the future, you'll notice right away that the second playthrough kind of feels longer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the days also do go by pretty quickly because unless it's something like specific story stuff going on or you're dungeon crawling, you get like pretty much two actions a day, aside from like, going to shops or whatever. Like that doesn't count. But like any sort of like big, like, oh, this is gonna work on this social link or this is gonna, um, you know, do this job or whatever to get money. And like you don't have to worry about doing stuff to specifically raise your stats or whatever. So
Mm.
that's already um although I thought it was kind of weird. I thought the amount of personas I could hold would go up higher. I only got like one increase to like 12, right? Maybe it was 1 to 10 and then 1 to 12, and then it was like, nope, that's just how many you have.
Yeah, you're limited there. You can essentially have one persona of almost every arcana, which is
Mhm.
good because in future playthroughs you want to have high level personas of specific arcanas because it helps raise those social links up. Like, say you have a priestess arc like persona, that'll make the Yukiko social link go faster because it's you get a boost from the priestess persona in your party.
Mhm. I gotcha. Um, but no, I mean, all in all, like I thoroughly enjoyed the story. It was a great time all the way through. I totally called it. By the way, I texted you and told you that.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of obvious how anytime you mentioned it, I wouldn't say a word. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of clammed up anytime I asked you anything about Persona, so I mean, that was just kind of whatever. But I was
well, just
I was pretty sick even before they gave us any sort of inkling or clue. I
I
was
will
like, nah,
before we
it's
go
this goofy
forward.
guy over here.
Before we go forward, spoiler wall. Just for anyone who has not played Persona 4, just put it up now. Uh, before we go too far into this.
Yeah,
Um,
fair enough.
so that being said, yeah, Adachi is pretty obvious from the start if you pay really close attention.
I mean, everything points to him as like it's like I said before. It's like he's always hanging out at Juness, which is where we do the meetups. It's where we go into the TV. It's where we do all that shit. He has access to, he knows where Dojima lives. He's been there a bunch of times. Fucking, I mean, obviously with the whole thing with Namatame, kind of threw a wrench in things at first, but like, the whole concept of like, a cop goes to your door, you're not going to question it. You're just going
Mm.
to talk to him. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like everything lined up perfectly before it gave you any sort of like real clue to point to him. Like
Well,
he fit the bill in all aspects.
if you
Plus, he's
pay it,
the only social link that only goes to 6.
kind of, we'll get into that later. Um, I will say now, there is a major giveaway early on that you won't get at first, but when you play the game again, it's very obvious. You notice when the murder happens right at the start, like the first murder, he runs away and throws up
Mhm.
because he's like, "Holy fuck, that was me."
Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting little thing that you only kind of notice. You don't notice right away because it's kind of irrelevant at first, but then on later playthroughs you realize, oh, that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. It's
Um,
definitely interesting. And I wasn't expecting like, with a lot of these kinds of convoluted stories and stuff, like I didn't expect to get like a real answer about the Midnight Channel, like what that actually is. And I was really I mean, you have to do like the perfect ending or like the true ending or whatever to get that explanation, but it is there. So that I thought that was
hmm.
nice.
Yeah, basically the Midnight Channel is just a dimension that is essentially fueled by the thoughts of the people. So when people have negative thoughts, it causes chaos and disorder in this world that for some reason the portals to it are televisions. Um, it's a very
Which I thought was interesting.
wacky Japan game. That's all I'll say right off the bat.
Yeah. And the whole like concept, like it makes sense with the whole like, oh, like everyone's thoughts are tied to like whatever, because everyone's like dungeons for each person like fit their whatever it is that they got inside. And like I was thinking specifically about Nanako's dungeon and how it's heaven, and it's like all
Yeah,
pretty and flowers and like sunshine and all that. Like it makes sense because
but it's
she's a little girl,
also
she's innocent, she's gone through trauma, she lost her mother. Like,
yeah, but it's also somewhat eerie and has kind of a sinister vibe to it at the same time.
hmm,
Like one thing that a lot of people miss when they play Persona 4 for the first time, and it's understandable because it's not exactly clear, is the dungeons and the shadows, which we'll get into later, are essentially they're kind of like the host of said dungeons like internal thoughts that they're keeping suppressed. The thing
hmm,
that a lot of people miss though is that in the dungeons they're heavily exaggerated. They're essentially like it's your most inner repressed like feelings if they were taken to an extreme and like exemplified in
right.
like reality. Because we'll get into like some of the specifics later, but I know one character later on, Kanji, his dungeon is like the most complicated one that is the hardest to explain. And like there is a bunch of layers to that one, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
I just love that Yosuke just doesn't let him live it down just the whole time.
Yeah, Yosuke is kind of a dick, but I love him at the same time.
Yeah, Kanji was my favorite out of all the dudes. Like he's cool. I like him.
I will say, like, one of the reasons, so it's no secret, Persona 4 Gold is my favorite game ever. And one of the reasons why I love this game so much is the cast and characters is so likable. Like, I love every single character in this game, even the villains. Like, Dachi's a piece of shit, but I still love him as a character because he is such an effective character for like what his role in the game is.
He kind of has like a Toby situation going on, like from Naruto.
Yeah. Like also did you notice kind of the meta funny coincidence that the main character and Adachi share a voice actor?
Uh, now that you say that, I definitely, but the main character doesn't really talk, except for when
So
he said, except for in battle when he yells persona or the name of his persona or whatever. Like that's the only
it's
time he ever talks.
it's not as noticeable in the the main game itself, but in like the anime and like all of the sequels and like adapt like continued media like the Persona 4 Arena fighting game, Dancing All Night, all the spin-offs and stuff. He's fully voiced, and it Johnny Young Bosch does both voices, and it is really interesting, like because they are kind of one thing that is interesting about the main character. His canon name is Yu Narukami, but you can name him whatever you want. Um,
Yeah, it didn't give any sort of indication that he had a canon name, so I just went with
well,
whatever. But
he didn't at the time. The canon name was established in the anime, and then they kept it for all the bonus spin-offs.
gotcha.
But yeah, the character I'm gonna call him you just to for consistency's sake. But it's kind of interesting where Yu Narukami and Adachi are essentially they are like the same character but like polar opposites of each other in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
which is it's interesting when you replay the game and you see a lot of the similarities between them, but also massive differences.
for sure. Um, yeah, I was trying. I don't know. There's just so much about this game that I just found really entertaining. So I
It
know
has a
huh?
I was gonna say it has a phenomenal voice cast.
Oh, for sure. I was actually before I go forward. How you mentioned all the spin-off games, are any of those worth putting time into? Like, do they add anything story-wise or character-wise, or is it just like a fun little, hey, here's all these characters back together again?
So Persona 4 Arena takes place a couple months or so after, or maybe it's like a year after the events of the not the so this is going to get a little confusing. Persona 4 ends and then there is a bonus epilogue which takes place like I think a good like a full year after the end of the game's events, because the game starts at the beginning of their second year of high school, because Japan only has 3 years of high school rather than 4.
Hmm.
um it starts right at the beginning of the second year, and then it ends right at the end of the second year. Um, the epilogue takes place after they've completed their third year and they are graduated.
Okay.
So the arena games take place after you leaves Iniba, but before that the events of that epilogue. I think it's actually during the golden week of their third year of high school. So he comes back to Iniba for Golden Week, and then a bunch of crazy shit happens with the whole Persona 4 Arena thing, because Persona 4 Arena is a fighting game.
Okay.
Um, Arena Ultimix, the sequel to Arena, takes place directly after Arena, so it's like basically the Arena ends and then you go right into Ultimix.
Hmm.
Because Ultimix ends with you going back to where his parents live in the city. Um, Dancing All Night, the rhythm game spinoff, that takes place sometime after the events of the arena games, but before the epilogue. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like it's another little spin-off thing. It's fun. enough. I enjoy it. Um, they have stories. The stories are fun if you like the cast of Persona 4, like you get more with them.
Mhm.
Oh, there's also the Persona Q games on 3DS. Those are essentially Etrian Odyssey games, but they use the Persona world.
Okay.
Those take place during those are confusing because those take place during the events of 4, but it's like a
Oh,
weird kind of bubble continuity that happens, and it's like a crossover between Persona 3, 4, and 5. Um,
okay.
they're good games. I wouldn't recommend playing them unless you're into like dungeon crawlers because they're kind of expensive and they're story wise they really don't add anything.
Okay.
The arena games I'd say check out just because they're fun fighters and they're pretty harmless. Um, Dancing All Night's also fun just because I enjoy the music, like remixes and stuff, and it does have a fun story. You just if you like rhythm games, go for it. But I guess to answer your question, they're not essential, but they are fun add-ons if you'd like some more Persona 4 cast, basically.
Okay. Where does where does Blaze Blue fit in there? Because I know that the four main ones are in that.
I think that's non-canon.
Okay.
I
Is
think
there
that's
are they involved in the story of that, or is it are they just characters you could play as?
I
Because I
think
have the game, I just never bothered with the story. I just only played like multiplayer.
I think the Blaze Blue cross tag tournament thing is just a. I'm not sure that's canon, honestly, because I haven't played the story either. To be honest on that.
Fair enough. I was thinking about doing it at some point.
Hmm.
I don't know. I got a bunch of games that I started a while ago that I want to beat those before I jump into something new. So
I think Arena Ultimix is on Switch as well. I'm not sure if Arena One is though, so that
mhm.
might be a little confusing story wise.
So you say that you generally always go for Yukiko, correct?
Yes.
um yeah, I went for Chie. I also kind of like locked myself into that like early before I had like met any of the other girls.
Well,
Um
Chie is the first girl that. Well, technically the second girl if you count Mary, but the first real girl that matters.
mhm.
Um. Yeah. I mean, they're all fine. I just like
Yeah.
Yukiko.
Well, I mean technically I ended up dating Chie, Yukiko, and what the hell's her name? Rise. But I I only did like the cutscenes and stuff with Chie just because at that point I already locked it in. And like as I said before, I'm not doing my first run right unless I'm breaking hearts along the way. So
Yeah, I don't know. Persona 4 Golden just makes you feel like a dick for doing it at the end.
yeah, that's true.
It's not played for laughs like 5 was.
Yeah. Um. So like what's your personal favorite aspect of Persona 4?
Um, I love the gameplay loop. Like, there. So Persona 4 has a very fun gameplay loop where it is a combination hybrid turn-based RPG along with social sim,
Hmm.
and the game is split up into two distinct halves. There's obviously the dungeon crawling, like turn-based RPG stuff, and then you get the social sim stuff. And the way the gameplay loop works is in between every like dungeon section where you have to rescue a party member or a significant character, there are you get essentially a time limit of a certain amount of days before you have to go in and save said character, complete the dungeon. So the way the gameplay loop works is essentially every day on the calendar is like the game has there you have a set amount of time essentially in game before the game ends. So every day you kind of have a bunch of tasks you can do. You completely free roam, like go around Inaba. It's a very small kind of overworld town, so it's not hard. It's very easy to like not get lost. Like you can find everything pretty easily, and you essentially go through your days. You get it, build up stats, improve relationships, which then help you in battle. And then you'll go and do
Hmm.
your dungeon stuff, and then the loop will reset, and you'll go back to social stuff. And it's just a very quick loop And there's always something happening, like in Inaba. Like there's, say, one day you'll run into, say, this character or another character. Certain social links then unlock other social links. Like, say, there's the Death Arcana. It's an elder woman that you'll encounter. I believe that to unlock her social link, you have to do the Devil Arcana, which is the nurse, because there's a bit of overlap there. Um, yeah, it's kind of cool. Like there's specific, like just the way the whole game works together and like everything kind of connects. And every playthrough is different. That's kind of my favorite part about it.
For sure. Yeah, I was trying to bring it up just because we didn't. I forgot to mention it a week or two ago. But the the beauty pageant,
Yes.
that was interesting because there was a regular beauty pageant with all the female characters, and then there was also a cross dressing pageant
Yes.
with all the male characters.
And the only reason they get entered in is because the Yosuke entered all the girls without their consent. So then they decide to enter all the boys as a revenge, and they end up being
Yep.
the only guys in the drag competition.
Hmm.
Um, I will say just a little forward note. This game is very Japan, and Japan obviously has very different standards than America. So some things in this game may be a little off-putting, but it's different cultures, so we kind of have to move past that.
It was also a PS2 game, so you also got to think like early mid two
True.
thousands.
I mean, they're still doing it in fives, so and in five, obviously, they're even more blatant at times.
When did five
Uh,
come out?
to 2017.
Oh, okay, so it's still fairly recent.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
7 years. That's still pretty new.
7 years. Uh, where Persona 4 came out in '08, by the way, just to gonna put that one out there.
Oh,
Um,
okay,
a very
but yeah,
late PS2 game.
um,
Yeah, the drag competition though is interesting. It's honestly more entertaining in the anime because they play it up for laughs even more. But
this is the original Persona 4 anime, correct?
yes, the golden anime is pointless. Like I wouldn't bother even going
I'm
with that
probably
one.
still gonna watch it just because at this point I like the story and the characters, so if I can jump into that world for a little longer, I will. But it's a shame that it's more difficult to find the original one. It's at least encouraging to know that you have it on DVD, so the next time you and I hang out, we can watch it. But
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Um, what's funny about that whole beauty pageant event is though it literally like adds nothing to the story. It literally just kind of happens.
well, that's kind of how like a lot of these kinds of like in-game events go. Like it was the same kind of thing with like the camping out trip and um what was the other one? The
So
ski
there,
trip was important.
well,
Uh
the ski trip. So the ski trip was added for Golden. That was not in the original game.
oh, like the city trip. Like I know that was supposed to be like a reference to Persona 3 or whatever, but then they went to
Yes.
the like little like nightclub area and all that other stuff. So like, I mean, that stuff wasn't like important to the story, but it was world building, it was character development, it was just goofy times with your characters that we've been getting to know, and it's still enjoyable. Honestly, it got to a point where I like dungeon crawling games. Like, don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, but I got to a point at some point in that game where I was enjoying the story beats and the social link stuff more than I was enjoying the dungeon crawling.
That's the thing about four that I really like is that the story is so engaging and there's so many like little aspects to it. Like one of the jokes some people have made up about Yu Narukami is that he's kind of like Mr. Perfect at times. Like he's always like always right kind of thing. And the in the later games in the anime, they kind of play that up as he's like the mimetic badass who like everything just goes perfect for him at all times, which is
Mhm.
fun. Um, what's cool though is like your interactions with the people in the game do matter in the long run. Like this jumps like way far ahead, but the final day of the game, when you're at the train station ready to leave, every social link that you maxed out, they're all at the station platform waiting for you, and like they all basically have things to say, like they want to say goodbye. So if you max out like almost every social link, literally like you'll run into like all the characters that you like met along the way, which is really fun. Or another cool event is like during Christmas time, like when you go around town and you actually like you'll run into pretty much all the social links you've maxed out, and you can they'll chat you up and be like, hey, how's it going, merry Christmas, stuff like that, which is kind of cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna make more of an effort to try to do more social link stuff because I was like doing it early on, but like I was also working on like boosting like my stats and training my personas and stuff. Like I was doing a lot of that early on.
It is
Before I
very hard.
realized how important the social links were.
It's
So
very
like the
hard to
first three
max
months I
them.
kind of squandered.
Yeah, it's very hard to max them on a first playthrough. It's usually subsequent playthroughs where you really get everything down.
Mhm. Yeah, you gotta new game plus that shit.
Yeah, new game plus is my favorite aspect of this like game because you it basically it makes the replays almost infinite because you there's so many different things you can do. Like there's also like different, so some of the social links have different chains too that you can follow. Like
Mhm.
the strength arcana is but you get by joining the sports club, and you can either join the soccer team or the basketball team, and they both have completely different storylines that they follow depending on the route you pick, which is kind of cool.
I was gonna ask about that because I didn't do any of the clubs. And I didn't know like what did it work like social links? Was it like that kind of thing, or was
Yes.
it just like a
So
stat boosting thing?
the sports clubs are the strength arcana, and then the drama or music clubs are the sun arcana,
Okay,
or maybe it's moon.
gotcha.
It's either sun or moon. It's one of those because then the girl there's the girl in the school that you can talk to right by the main entrance. She's also one of the arcanas.
Mhm. I also didn't do very many of like the quests. Like it was at one point where I was kind of every time I do a dungeon crawl, I just run around and give everybody whatever items they wanted. But I only did that like a couple times, and then I just kind of let it all go.
They're kind of pointless, like because you don't really get anything. It's mostly if you want to get better items and stuff, you can because you get
I mean,
money
even a
from
lot of
them.
the I was gonna say even a lot of the chests weren't really like that. It was usually like go homes and stuff. Like
Go home is my favorite pun.
yeah, right. I picked up on that right away. So that was hilarious.
Did you run into the Reaper at all?
Yeah, I killed it in the final dungeon.
Oh, so you did get the Reaper.
Mm.
Fun fact: you can get the Reaper in like Yukiko's dungeon if your luck
I
saves it.
I I I did actually, and it absolutely ruined me.
Like, oh, what's this? And it's like, oh fuck. um,
I can't remember. It was either Yukiko's dungeon or Kanji's. It was early. It was within the first like 3 months of the game.
you can
So
get
yeah,
you can get the Reaper in uh Yukiko's dungeon on the first run, and it is hilarious when it happens.
yeah. I only ran into it twice. And the second time, like I said, was in the final dungeon. So by that point, like everybody I had was in the 90s, like mid 90s for level, so I wasn't worried about it. Um,
Yeah. In
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say in Persona 3, the Reaper was more of an annoyance that would roam around the dungeons, and you kind of had to avoid it because you couldn't. It wasn't just like a chest thing that would happen. It was more of a careful. This thing roams the halls sometimes, and you might run into it.
Hmm. Um, oh shit, I lost my train of thought.
You were just
It's been a
saying how
while for you guys.
yeah, you were just saying how your strategy, I believe, for fighting it.
Oh no, I was just saying like the how it when you bump into the chest, it'll be like, oh, are you sure? Are you sure you want to fight it? It's pretty tough.
Well, so either Teddy or later
So,
Rise will basically be like, "Don't open this chest; it is dangerous," and you're like, "But I'm gonna do it anyways."
hmm.
Uh,
Yep,
speaking of
there's
that,
there's there's something cool in there. I know it.
speaking of that, who did you prefer as your navigator, Teddy or Rise?
Oh, Risei, 100%.
What, you didn't like bear puns?
Well, I didn't mind the bear puns at all. It's she just has way more of like abilities that help
Yeah,
out.
okay.
Like, she'll
Okay.
just randomly heal you, or she'll randomly restore your SP, or to be like, oh, here's an attack boost, here's a defense boost. Like that was just useful.
Yeah, okay.
Teddy was just kind of like goofy. Like
Yeah,
which is fine. I have no problem with goofy characters in games, but it's not really helpful in a dungeon situation.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Rise is definitely the better navigator just because persona is literally designed for it. Um,
Yeah. Which what the fuck is up with the telescope head? Like that, and when it gets its final form and its head is literally just a giant ass fucking telescope.
telescope with the fucking solar system floating around it.
For
I
real.
don't know. I don't know. It's
It's
fun.
bizarre. Bizarre.
I mean, Yosuke's
Um
got Razorblade Man as his persona, so
well I didn't
oh, you
his
didn't get
his I didn't he was still on level 1 persona the whole time.
you didn't get a Susano with his like razor blade flying around him in his disco afro.
No, I didn't get that one. I pretty much prioritized the social links for my party members, and Yosuke got booted real early. So as soon as I unlocked Kanji, Yosuke was gone.
Yosuke's got a great social link too, though.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm probably gonna next time around. I'm gonna swap out all my party members and just have with Yosuke, Teddy, and Naoto.
Yep. Oh, you
Right?
didn't
That's
use it.
all of them, right?
Yeah, so it's Chie, Yosuke, Yukiko, Kanji, Teddy, Rise, and Naoto.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll just swap out those three and put in the other three because I was looking at some of their abilities and stuff because Teddy's just upgrades automatically since his social link goes up as you progress the story.
Yeah, his is plot relevant.
I saw that he had some of the, so I feel like he's supposed to be like the healer out of those three.
He is. Yukiko's still the superior healer in like the long run, but Teddy has some decent healing moves as well.
Oh no, I totally understand. I'm just saying like if I were to swap out the three that I've been using for the other three, like out of the three that I didn't use, Teddy would be the healer.
So, out of all the party members, Teddy is my least used party member, just in general. Do you want to know
Mm,
why? It is the
yep.
most petty reason ever. When he
Just
walks
the
in the
bear puns.
dungeon, no, the bear puns don't bother me. It's when he walks in the dungeon, he makes that squeaking sound everywhere, and it drives me fucking up a wall. So I'm just like,
Yeah, I can
he,
imagine.
he immediately gets sent to the storage bin basically forever.
That's fair. Understandable.
Yeah, you get
I do
really
like
tired.
that. I do like that Naruto just uses guns,
Yeah, yeah, her little handgun.
which is a reveal all on its own. The fact that she's a her.
Yes, although her voice actress doesn't do the greatest job hiding it. I will say.
True, but with how often women play younger boys, I mean I noticed it and I said, yeah, that's obviously a woman's voice, but it could have just been playing a younger boy, a younger, more feminine boy.
True. I saw it through Naruto as a female real early on. I think it might just be the I don't know. I that reveal kind of like wasn't a shock to me, but I think I might have just
What about the
I don't know.
reveal that she had the biggest boobs out of all of them?
That was played for laughs, and then the bathhouse scene happens and the ending epilogue, and you're like, oh yeah, okay,
Yep. When she actually starts dressing like a girl at the end.
yeah, where she accepts herself. Also, if you do if you romance just Naoto for Christmas Eve, she wears a female uniform.
Okay. Wow, she doesn't even wear like a fucking kimono or anything. She just wears a
Well, it's
cop
for
uniform.
the she wears her like little like suit thing on a actually you don't get Naoto. Naoto's not in the party during the festival arc, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I don't think know if you ever get an opportunity to see her in a kimono.
Yeah, I didn't work on her social links. I didn't realize until it was way too late how to start it.
Yeah, hers is a pain in the ass to start
But
because you got to
it
do
was
all
just
this.
yeah, I literally just had to go and talk to somebody at the shopping center and then go back to Naoto and be like, hey, this guy.
Yeah,
And that would
it's
start it. But
you have to go through hoops, which is a little annoying, especially if you don't know it first.
I love Kanji's whole thing though. Kanji's like my favorite character in the whole thing.
Kanji, we should probably get into Kanji now. Kanji is he is one of the best characters in the game, and he is also one of the most complicated and complex characters overall.
Well, that's part of what makes him a good character. I mean, nobody likes a was it Gary Stew? Is that the male version of that?
Yeah. Um. So Kanji, I mean, first off, he's voiced by Troy Baker for 7/8 of the game. Um. Fun fact: all the bonus scenes for Golden, he was voiced by Matt Mercer because Troy Baker was unavailable at the time.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's voiced by Troy Baker, which is just awesome inherently. This was actually one of Troy Baker's first major roles too.
Hmm.
Um, he's he. Where do I begin with Kanji? He is his outward appearance is he's a punk because he's got the bleach blonde hair and the jacket. But what makes Kanji so fascinating is the fact that he's secretly a softy mama's boy inside.
Hmm. Yeah, because he definitely has
And
like the whole like delinquent style about him.
yeah, and to me, like what I find the most interesting about Kanji is there's a bit of a the game kind of like throws you for a loop with him at first because one of his intro, one of his big introduction like character moments is when you're trying to find information on him for his because he's the next target for the TV world. Because the way that works is basically they watch the Midnight Channel, which is like this weird channel that shows like it shows weird shit on TV essentially before they get murdered. And basically,
Like,
whenever a character appears on the channel, it's because they were on TV previously or something like that. It's weird how it works,
hmm.
but yeah. Well, while they're trying to get information on Kanji because they know he's the next target, there's actually Naoto's first appearance. Um, at this point, we still think she's a he, and she's trying to get intel on Kanji as well. But her because she's kind of not great with speaking to people basically because she's kind of sheltered. She kind of makes Kanji think it's a date, and Kanji is confused because he thinks she's a he at the time, which sends his brain through this whole weird thing where he's not sure what's going on. And then because he's also into more cutesy feminine stuff, like sewing and like knitting and all that fun stuff. His dungeon is essentially an exaggerated like reality where like all that repressed like nature comes out and it's like a bathhouse and his shadow is extremely camp, like to an extreme
Oh
degree.
yeah, oh yeah,
Um,
big time.
and that has led to a lot of theories that Kanji is secretly gay. I don't think he is personally. I think he is just in touch with his feminine side, and the exaggerated dungeon is just expressing that.
Yeah,
Because later on when he finds out that Naoto's a girl, he's just into Naoto. That's kind of his thing. He's not really. It didn't matter her gender. It was literally he's just into her
yeah,
basically.
he just like her in general. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's a weird dynamic that's going to be debated. It'll be debated for probably as long as this game exists. That's my personal take on it, but yeah.
no, I I,
Con-
I definitely agree with you there.
um, yeah, Kanji is an interesting character in general. Um, Also, his
Yeah,
social
it's one
link
of
is
those
just
things
fun.
where like, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just gonna say like, no, I totally agree with you because I mean, like you could say like, oh, this is like a, this is what he's hiding, what, but it, like you said, it's like a big exaggeration. Like Rise's not a stripper, but her
Well, yeah.
fucking evil shadow persona was literally a stripper. Like,
Or how Yukiko's shadow persona was like extra slutty.
yeah, but it was just like, it was a whole thing. I was actually kind of disappointed that Chie didn't get a whole dungeon, but at that point, I only had Yosuke as a party member. So
Yeah, they unfortunately Yosuke and Chie kind of get the short end of the stick there. They still get exaggerated shadow personas, like where Yosuke's is like an extra prick, and Chie's is like Chie's is weird because it's like it's highlighting her protective nature of Yukiko, who was like one of her only friends in this at the time. So it's
yeah,
kind
because
of
it was one of those things where like Yosuke and Chie's were basically just kind of like bitching about the people they're closest to. So like, Yosuke was close to his senpai lady who was killed. And
yep.
then it was the same thing with Chie where it was Yukiko and yeah, went from there. Um so so you jump around with personas a lot and stuff like that, making new ones and such. I didn't. I mean, I was still making new personas and like, playing around with it and stuff, but I pretty much used the same persona for the vast majority of the game.
You can get away with that. The main reason you want to make new personas is just for social link stuff. Also, it's partially how you have to fuse new personas to make new personas. It's a confusing system like that.
Mhm.
Um, like for me, one of the one of the social links is Margaret, who's one of the Velvet Room attendants, and her social link is unique that you can actually max it out in one day. Like you don't need to like go multiple visits.
Mhm.
Um, Essentially hers is just she wants you to make personas for her, so you have to go into like the dungeons and just fuse specific personas with like specific attributes. um it's essentially a way of teaching you how to use the persona system, but
Yeah, and if you max out your social link, you get a smooch on the final day.
yes you do. And and a if you max out Margaret's social link, you get a super boss. Oh, I think you're thinking of
See?
Mary.
No, Margaret gives you the smooch.
Does she?
Yeah, I think Mary gives you one on Valentine's Day.
Oh, I so you did max out Margaret's, right?
Hmm.
Okay. I should have warned you about this. To get the super boss, you have to go into one of the dungeons because she's at the end of one of the dungeons, and that's where you face it.
Oh, okay. I
I
gotcha.
forgot about that. It doesn't direct you directly to it. You have to. I think it's the end of. I think it's heaven. She's at the end of heaven, and that's where you fight
Okay.
the her. She's a super boss, and like if you thought the Reaper was hard,
Well, I mean, by the time I actually fought the Reaper, like I said, all my guys were like the persona I had been using had max stats for a while at that point, so his stats were all there. All my party members were like mid 90s. I had the best equipment they could possibly get at that point, so I wasn't exactly hurting when I fought the Reaper.
well, Margaret's hard. Like even at max stat, like she is a very challenging boss, and even with like use ultimate persona, which you can only so you couldn't get it on this playthrough. You can only get use ultimate persona on a new game plus playthrough. Because you have to see the cutscene in the final boss fight to unlock use persona in like new game plus mode.
Right, right. Yeah, because it like
Um,
a his original persona like evolves
he
during
gets
during like the final hit against that one.
yeah. You can actually use that persona in like in like a new game plus playthroughs. You have to fuse it, and it's a very complicated persona fusion that involves. It's like an eight. I think it's like an 8-way fusion or something like that. It's crazy.
Jesus.
It's easy with a guide, but it takes a lot of time to get done. That's all I'll say there.
Yeah. One thing I did notice is that like when you're just going through like regular gameplay and like working on social links, dungeon crawling, all that stuff, like the fact that you're a silent protagonist, it fits perfectly. But when like there's like big cutscenes and stuff happening, and he's just sitting there with a straight face the whole time while all this stuff is going on, it's pretty goofy.
Oh, like when after the ski trip event where uh, Yosuke and Teddy are trying to peep over the fence, and he's just standing there watching, like from the distance, not sure what to think.
Yeah, or like even when he's riding the train away on the last day, and who was it? It was Yukiko and was it Yosuke who were chasing the train, or maybe it was Teddy. I don't remember.
I think it's
But
all of
like
them
they're
are
both
missing it.
they're like chasing it down, doing the whole like train leaving thing, and everyone's like doing this big emotional like, oh, like we know you'll be back and all this other stuff. We had a great time. We love you. Blah blah blah. And you're just sitting there,
It dead face.
just completely like nothing. Just yeah, nobody's home. Like
Yeah,
it was pretty silly.
the anime actually makes some jokes about that as it goes on. So
That's pretty fun. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to watching the anime for it.
it is surprisingly funny. Like there is some really funny stuff in that anime.
I can imagine.
Um, what else? What's another good topic? The soundtrack for this game is fucking phenomenal.
Oh yeah, it's been stuck in my head for like 2 months.
Shoji Meguro is probably my favorite video game composer of all time. Like
Mhm.
Persona 4 soundtrack is amazing because it's so upbeat, but it also
Oh,
covers
like consistently.
and it covers so many styles. Like there's heavy metal, hard rock, J-pop, like folk, like pop, like just all sorts of stuff.
Fucking 16-bit.
Yeah, with the bonus boss.
Yeah.
Well, the main boss, I should say, in the golden version, he does 8-bit stuff. Um,
Mhm.
oh, speaking of golden, I should bring up some of the bonus events. What did you think of the trip up to the so when you get the motor scooter, you get to go to all these different areas. What'd you think of the trip up for the dating quest
The dating quest?
when Yosuke wants to go pick up girls and you have to go along?
Oh, right. I don't remember how that went. You have to remind me.
Uh, so basically, you got all three go up to the city after Yosuke after you get your scooter and Yosuke gets a scooter and Kanji's on a bicycle. It's funny. Um,
Yep.
basically, you're all in the city and Yosuke wants to pick up girls, so you have to like walk around and like try to get numbers from all the different girls around.
Right.
And
Mhm.
my favorite is one of them is like this like kind of like activist girl who's like protesting something, and like you'll start like joining her in her protest, and then like eventually you'll realize this is going nowhere and you just leave. Um, then like you get like a couple numbers and stuff, and like one of my favorites is like you call the number and it's like some guy, it's like you it was like some guy's wife and he like threatens you over the phone.
I think I
Um,
remember that. Yeah.
Kanji picked up a hooker. um, and then Yosuke got pranked and got the stereotypical overweight girl her number, and she flattens his motorcycle.
Oh, right. Forgot about
and he
that.
and he dies inside.
It's about right.
But then you get access. Oh, go on.
Okay.
I was gonna
I
say
was
then you
gonna
get.
say you go.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say after that you get access to that city as a bonus place for raising up social links and stuff.
Okina City, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was gonna say I don't think you ever get to go back to that other city that you did the field trip on.
No, because that's on an island, I believe.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna move on to the big beach trip where we went to the beach and everyone's riding mopeds there, and then Kanji is just riding his bike and Teddy's just running for whatever reason.
No, he's on roller skates.
Was he on roller skates?
Yeah, he had roller skates because during one of the group meetings, like they were talking about how they were going to get there, and then Yukiko thinks it's really funny that it would be hilarious if Teddy got there on roller skates.
So he just went along with it because he wanted to score with Yukiko.
Yes, Teddy never scores
All
with
right.
Yukiko.
Never scores with anyone. He even tries to score with Nanako.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, well, he's not technically human, so you can't really hold it against him.
Well, he grows a body though out of thin air.
Yeah, that was see, that's something that's never really explained.
Well, Teddy is a bit of a conundrum himself because he's essentially a shadow that grew a personality and then gained a persona, which then caused him to gain his own conscious life. Some weird shit like that.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. Um, but yeah, the beach thing was fun.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
where
it's one of the other like big events.
Kanji loses
Hmm?
his speedo.
Yep. Yeah, the fucking speedo. That always has to be one, right?
The girls walk over. They're like, "Well, my favorite part is when Teddy when he walks out of the ocean. He's holding Teddy like a surfboard, and it's like covering his you know." And the whole time, like
Yep.
Teddy's like freaking out there while they're like trying to figure out what to do, and so they cover it with seaweed. And of course, the girls walk over and they're like, "The fuck are you doing?" And they're like, "We're just recreating the birth of Venus." And then
Oh
they
Jesus.
actually that scene has one of my favorite lines in the entire my favorite lines in the entire series where well actually no this didn't happen at the beach event, this happened during the school camping trip. My wires got crossed during the school camping trip. There's a point where they're going to go bathe in the river and
Mhm.
the girls are like, oh, we forgot our swimsuits, we can't do that. And then Yosuke just pulls swimsuits out of his hammer space and he's like, don't worry, I came prepared. And the girls are just like, dude, that's so messed up in so many levels. But
We
it's
know
one of my
how like girl crazy and I was gonna say like how girl crazy and shit he is. I'm surprised he didn't suggest skinny dipping.
yeah, honestly. Um, it's kind of funny though, like the the anime plays that scene up a whole lot more, but yeah, there's a
I'm
lot
sure.
of
I'm
like
sure it probably plays up the spot or not the spot, the fucking hot spring stuff too.
yeah, not as much as you'd think though, honestly. It's about on par with the anime. The only difference is in the game they're wearing towels for censorship. In the anime not so much.
That's surprising. I would have thought that because like the hot springs trip. That's a big anime trope that's in like every slice of life ever.
I mean, they play it up, but it's about the same on the as the game, like where the girls like one of the funniest things about the hot springs thing is like the girls kind of screw it up and they go in during the males bathing hours by accident. So then the guys show up and
Mhm.
the girls are like calling them perverts like usual, and they start just hucking like uh, wash baskets at them, which is hilarious.
Mhm.
And you get a couple options. You can either like run away or try to talk it out, or my favorite is stand your ground. And basically all stand your ground does is you continue to get pelted with baskets until finally you all just give and run away. And then the girls
Yeah,
realize they screwed up the times.
we retreated. We were like, nope, we're not dealing with that.
Oh, I always stand my ground because I just think it's funny just to watch them get pelted for a few more minutes.
Yeah. Um.
Uh,
So out of like the side social links, which one do you like the most?
Side social links. So there's a good
Like
amount.
ones that aren't party members or like or either of the Dojimas.
Um, I won't count Mary either because hers is kind of special as well. Um, I enjoy the sports club ones, particularly the if you do the basketball team because his story is pretty interesting.
Mhm.
Um, honestly, the Devil Arcana is surprisingly deeper than it seems. That's the nurse on
Mhm.
that you can work during your night job. Um, that one's pretty deep. There's one where like you tutor like a an elementary student. A
Mhm.
middle schooler, I think actually. That one's got a cool out resolution. What's another good one? Oh, the Hanged Man Arcana. That is the younger brother of the girl that gets murdered at the start of the game. The one,
Right. I bumped into him, and I think like I got to the point where he wasn't telling me to go fuck myself, but
yeah.
it never like developed past that. I didn't even see him after that.
So his is annoying because he has a tendency to just like if you miss his start day, because you need to have a certain amount of stats, I believe, to start his. If you miss
Like
his
understanding or something.
yeah, if you miss his start date, he like doesn't appear for a while, and it's like you have to wait till much later in the game, and you can
Mm.
miss a lot. You can easily miss his social link. The reason I bring up his social link in particular, though, is it is one of the most interesting ones because it's really an interesting idea behind a guy who he just lost his like he just lost a family member and he's going through a lot of shit, especially with his like family business, which is getting ruined by the fact that there's a giant grocery store chain that's kind of killing all the smaller businesses.
Mhm.
And the whole time he's basically being people are walking around him on eggshells because of his sister dying and they're basically over pitying him and he hates it. And it's like the whole thing is essentially you just kind of have to it's basically the whole thing is around just treating him like a normal person and like letting him actually grieve the whole situation,
Mhm.
which is it's kind of dark. I'm not gonna lie.
That's fair. One thing I will say is I thought it was really interesting how all the personas are based off of tarot cards, like for like the different
Mm,
arcana types.
yes,
And I thought that was really interesting because that's almost exactly the way stands are introduced in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure
there is a
because
lot
they're
of
all based off of
parallels.
tarot cards, and
I b-
like stands are pretty much exactly the same thing as personas.
I believe Persona was heavily inspired by JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Makes sense. So Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei, right?
Yes,
Does Shin
it's
Megami Tensei do similar things, or are they like, actually like super powered kids or whatever?
um so they're similar to a degree. Rather than having personas in Shin Megami Tensei, you instead recruit demons.
Okay, it's interesting.
Um, Apologies for the chainsaw in the background, everybody.
Yeah, the chopping up the tree outside.
Um, yeah, in Shin Megami Tensei though, it's more it's not so much like the big difference between Persona and Shin Megami Tensei is Persona is very kind of real world inspired, like it's more down to earth in like a school setting.
Okay.
Yeah. The Shin Megami Tensei games tend to be a bit darker and more fantastical at times, but they also feature real world stuff. Um,
Hmm.
the big difference though is rather than having personas that you recruit demons into your party.
But like at its core, it's essentially the same thing. It's an external being that's doing this crazy stuff for you.
Kinda. The also the social aspect is much less is a lot lesser in the mainline Shin Megami Tensei games.
Hmm.
Um, because I mean Persona 1 and 2 are also significantly different from 3 onward. Like they were a lot more Shin Megami Tensei-esque than
Yeah,
what Persona became.
I gotcha. Ooh, excuse me, a little tired.
So I have to ask so after the Namatame reveal, did you screw up the first time or did you make the right choices on your first confrontation?
Whether or not to shove him in the TV,
Yeah.
I did not do that. But I also kind of cheated a little bit because um, I think that was one of the decisions you had to make that would lead into the um, 'Cause I remember, I think at the beginning of that whole thing, it said, "Be careful, your choices matter," or whatever.
Yeah, it gives you a save option before that section.
Yeah, so when that happened, I was like, all right, because I wanted to make sure I got the real ending, like the full complete, because I wanted to know like the whole story. I didn't want to miss anything.
Okay.
So I knew going into it that I had a specific way I needed to do it, and I'm sure even without looking it up, I probably would have gone into the assumption that sparing him is the correct thing to do. But
Yeah. So, excuse me. So, big spoiler here, even though we already put the spoiler warning. After you go to Nanako's dungeon and you face off against Namatame, who is Namatame is interesting because he is introduced right at the start of the game, and he throughout the game he's just kind of a background element that isn't major to the story. And then you find out, oh wait, he's the actual guy that's been throwing everybody in the TV.
since starting with Yukiko
Yeah.
specifically.
Well, because we find out later Adachi is the one that put it into his mind that that's how he should go forward with his mission. Um, and essentially, what happens is you face off against him in heaven, and he ends up having a mental breakdown in there. And essentially, once you pull him out of the TV, he's in the hospital, but also Nanako's in the hospital because going into the TV world kind of takes a lot out of you, especially if you're a young child who doesn't have a persona. It can actually be almost deadly.
Yeah, because there's a bad route where Nanako dies because of it, correct?
So, Nanako, so this is the biggest gut wrenching part of this game is where Nanako temporarily dies during a scene here. And the game, apologies, the game does this pretty effectively where they have Nanako temporarily die right before you have this major plot decision just to kind of mess with your emotions. So what happens? One moment. We're going to be fighting this chainsaw for a minute here.
Yeah, it's probably gonna go on for a bit, being totally honest.
Yeah.
Is it really loud on your end?
Oh, I can't hear myself talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I got the noise canceling headphones, so I can't really. Oh, yeah.
All right, it's a little quieter now. But
Sorry,
essentially,
this is not soundproofed.
um, essentially what happens though is you get this gut wrenching moment where like your emotions are at an all time high, and then the right you get the next choice was essentially now everybody's pissed because like Nanako just died, so everyone's at emotional high, and basically you get the choice of like, hey, this guy caused all our problems. We could just throw him in this TV and be done with it. Except if you've been paying attention, you'll notice like really fast that there's clearly something not right here. Like there's something else is clearly going on, and this guy clearly probably knows the answer. So if we throw him in the TV, that basically ruins everything. And uh-oh. I think we lost Matt. Oh.
There you are.
Okay, he's back. Yeah. You had froze there for a minute.
Yeah, so did you. But yeah, yeah, the whole thing with Namatame definitely threw a wrench in things. And what was the other kid's name?
Oh, Mitsuyo Kubo, I believe his name is.
Yeah, that guy. He killed Mr. Moron there.
Yeah. the bucktooth guy,
Mm.
who somehow isn't as bad as his replacement, which he's somehow better than his replacement, which is hilarious. But
Kashiwagi.
yeah, she's annoying on so many levels. Um,
Yeah, for real.
what what's
Like when Rise comes to town and she's like, oh, I don't care what, I don't know why anybody cares about her. Like she should like more experienced girls like me, and just
yeah, just stuff that a teacher shouldn't be saying to her students.
for
um,
real.
but yeah, going back to the TV segment, if you do throw Namatame into the TV, the game essentially ends right there. It cuts right to the end of the year. The town is still covered in fog, and Nanako stays dead, and you basically leave on the saddest ending possible.
Mm.
What's really fun though is right after that scene, if you make the right choice and don't throw him in the TV, you can still get locked into another bad ending like immediately right after if you make another choice wrong.
Which one was that? I know I had it in front of me before, but I didn't actually read what happened in that ending.
So what happens next is then you spare his life, but say you don't understand why you spared his life. You have to essentially talk Yosuke down into basically being like, we need more information, essentially. And
Mm-hmm.
that something doesn't add up. So essentially, if you make the wrong choice there and just kind of you spare him, but you don't find any resolution,
Mm-hmm.
Nanako lives, but she's like hospital, like she's stuck in the hospital for a long term. Teddy disappears forever. The fog's still covered in town, in the town's still covered in fog, and the game then also just ends right there.
Okay,
So it's
that's
like
bizarre.
it's another bad ending. Only Nanako doesn't die this time. It's essentially a slightly less bad ending.
Yeah. So like the whole thing with Teddy, like the big reveal of like he's actually a shadow that like gained sentience or whatever. Um, where was he going? Like in that case, like is he just going back into the TV, or is he ceasing to exist like Marie was trying to?
I think it's a little of both. I think it probably makes more sense that he was just going to go disappear um, once you play get Marie's like backstory. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but he essentially was just kind of he went back into the TV world and just kind of got lost.
Okay. Yeah, because it's like at some point you kind of find out that that Namatame and Adachi were kind of like semi possessed by like these like big mega like shadows, and they were also like two parts of like one whole, and the third part is actually Marie.
Yes, and then also Adachi and Namatame are also significant in they all three of them gain the ability to enter the TV from from the same person that you gain your ability to enter the TV in.
Mm-hmm. Which you only find out about if you do the final day correctly.
Yes, so probably the easiest thing to miss in this entire game. Um, on the final day of the game, you get essentially you're packing up and getting ready to go home, and you get the option to go explore around town and say goodbye to like all of the people you've met along the way. Say bye to all the party members. Have one last little moment with Dojima and Nanako. And after you do that, you're basically you head back to Dojima's house, and you get the option on the screen that basically says go home or continue exploring. And if you hit go home, the game ends there, and you get you get the good ending technically, where it's a good ending, but it feels unfulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you continue to explore, you eventually find your way to Juness, and everybody is essentially at Juness. and you guys kind of all reminisce one last time, and then everyone kind of realizes. I think Matt froze again.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. It froze
Oh, there
again.
you are.
It's like it can't handle all the noise or something. I don't know.
So it also could be like that multiple people because my grandmother's sister is also here and they're like trying to work out a bunch of so like it could just be multiple people on the Wi-Fi slowing it
Gotcha.
down.
Gotcha. But what I was saying before is you go to Juness and everybody's there and you all kind of reminisce about all the stuff that happened, and then everyone kind of realizes, wait a minute, something doesn't quite add up, and then it kind of hits on everyone. There has to be some greater scope to this entire thing, and that's
Mhm.
where you kind of find out, surprise, the actual villain of the game is the gas station attendant that you met at the start of the game.
Yeah, right. Like how fucking random is that?
You never do get that damn job either that they offer.
And yeah, right. I was actually looking out for that the whole time. I was like, what the fuck? Um, and I thought it was kind of funny because when they first were like trying to break everything down and say, okay, it has to be somebody like there had to be some sort of trigger for this at the beginning. I thought it was gonna lead back to the fucking long nose guy from the Velvet Room because he showed up before anybody and was like, "Hey, this."
Oh boy. Sorry, sorry, folks.
He's
This is there. You are.
um I know that he's like kind of a staple in all the Persona games,
Yes,
from what I understand.
yes.
So I didn't think necessarily he was like the main driving, but I thought maybe he was like the reason why you was able to enter the TV from the beginning without dealing with the whole shadow part. But so
No.
that so for that aspect of it, it was really surprising that it ended up being the gas station attendant.
So what's fun is this is something that's very easy to miss, but occasionally when you're exploring around Inaba, the gas station attendant will just be standing there and you can chat with them every now and then. And if you
Mhm.
actually look at their dialogue, it kind of hints that they know more than they're letting on, but you kind of overthink it at first because you're like, oh, this is just some random NPC that doesn't do anything.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. I don't know. Just overall, it was a very enjoyable game. I had a lot of fun with it. At some point, I will well both eventually do a second playthrough on New Game Plus, and at some point or another, I will get around to playing 5 Royal and probably 3 Reload as well.
they're worth it.
When did 3 originally come out?
2006 or maybe seven.
Well,
Actually, I
so there
think
was only
six.
like so there's only a couple of years separated between 3 and 4, huh?
So there wasn't a lot. So one came out in the 90s, and then I believe like two came out in like 2000. Then there was a big gap between two and three. Three came out in '06, and then four was a couple years later in 2008. Then there's another giant gap between four and then five.
Hmm.
A lot of that I think
Yeah.
had to do with like they were building a new engine because like three and four run off the same engine, and then they had to basically build a brand new engine from scratch for five. So
So I did want to ask because the way the whole Persona aspect of it works is going into the TV in Persona 4. How does the Persona work? Like Personas work in other games? Is it still like going into the TV, or is it like a totally different thing?
so the TV only exists in the four universe. Well, they're all in the same universe technically. Just in four, the TV world is where things are going crazy. In three, it is a an extra hour at the end of every day called the midnight hour, I think.
Hmm.
Where there's just a 1 hour where the world goes wacky and like there's shadows everywhere.
Okay.
In five, it's a phone app.
All right. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing, just a different. source point on how they get there.
Same result, different medium kind of thing.
Yeah, it's fives is pretty interesting how they handle it. Three I have issues with just because three is a bit more restrictive at times.
I gotcha. Well, at some point, I mean, they did just release a remake for 3.
I believe that
So
remake fixes all of my problems with the original. So
I'll probably end up picking that up for PS5 at some point in the future. Probably won't be anytime soon. Uh, I mean, part of the reason I was able to get through Persona 4 as quickly as I did is because it's playable handheld.
yeah, I mean,
So
technically you can play five Royal on the Switch, so that is an option.
yeah, that's probably how I'm gonna get that one. For the 3 is gonna be a little bit more uh, difficult, or not difficult, but it's gonna take longer to get through that one, either one way or the other, because I'm
Yeah.
locked on a console. Um, Having a game on handheld makes all the difference for me with the limited amount of time that I have to play video games. Having the versatility of a handheld, I'm gonna be able to get through those games a lot quicker than a game where I'm locked on a console. Without a doubt. Um,
Yeah.
just because I don't have as many opportunities to sit down and take over the TV in the living room and do that, you know.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Um, but yeah, overall, I think this is probably one of the best games I played this year, which is saying something because I really enjoyed Chrono Trigger. I have been going back, like I said, I'm probably gonna hold off on starting a new game until I beat some of the games that I already have started from early in the
Mhm.
year. Like I only have a few levels left of Yu Yu Hakusho Tactics, which I started way back when we did the Yu Yu Hakusho episode.
Yep.
Um, I only have a few levels left of that, so I'll probably finish that off maybe tonight. We'll see what happens whenever we stop doing stuff. Um, as I have Lord of the Rings Tactics, I got to finish up, which I think was also pretty close on. Shin Budokai, Legacy Goku 2. I have a few other games that I either got most of the way through or just barely started. I got to finish Fractured Butthole too.
Yeah. I love that name.
So I mean,
Uh,
I have plenty of stuff to keep me busy now, but most of it I don't have too much time left on. So I'll be able to bang out a bunch of them in quick succession.
yeah. No, it's
After that,
definitely worth it.
yeah. After that, I'm probably just gonna do like a. I definitely want to play something new, but I'll probably try to go for a shorter game. Maybe I'll play. I was thinking about playing Battle for Bikini Bottom because I saw that the estimated play time is like 15 hours or so. It's pretty short.
Yeah, it's not a
So
huge game.
I thought that would be like a fun little like in between game between like big long RPGs, you know.
Yeah. That's a good one too for kids. Like that's a very easy to get into, like old school kind of game.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So are we gonna try to do your name next or
We could do that, yeah. Yeah, we'll be able to make that work for sure.
okay. I'm kind of in an anime kind of binge mode right now, so I've been trying to catch up on a bunch of shows. So
Mhm.
I might rewatch Your Name at some point this week before we record. I'm not sure when we'll record yet because we have a good amount of time to do stuff next
Yeah,
week. So
yeah,
we'll
because you
try to.
mentioned yeah, I was gonna say you mentioned in the last 3DO episode that you were trying to build up your animes watch for the year because you don't want to have to you don't want to pull a me and have the least amount of shows like last year.
Yeah, I mean my list wasn't that great last year either. I'm not gonna lie.
It was more than I had, and I watched a lot of anime for me last year. I watched like 20 shows and a handful of movies last year, which was big for me. Um, I was gonna say it's short enough. You could throw. I'd love it if you had Bakano on your list when we get to the year wrap up.
I'll try. I got a few I gotta do for commitments first. I just finished Zom 100, so you'll be hearing about that in a couple weeks on GNC, or maybe a certain series is coming back.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah, I've got a few on my bucket list I want to get through. I want to knock out a bunch of 12ers, so I might actually try to knock Bakano out pretty soon.
Yeah, but you know, if Slade's on the next year wrap up, he's gonna give you shit if you haven't watched Attack on Titan yet.
Oh, I'm already expecting it. So I'm not making any promises on that. I'm just gonna say now because the way the
Fair.
year's been going.
I'm just saying, like with it's just like Full Metal, where once you get in it, like you're gonna want to like sit and make time for it. So
Yeah. See, Full Metal was a different timing though. Now it's like it's harder to sit down and watch.
that's fair.
But yeah, so once again, guys, thanks for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also find us over at superpodnetwork.com, along with a whole bunch of other different podcasting shows you should check out, like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Novel Console, Gaming Together, um, The Elder Trolls, Friday Night Gamecast, Fine Time, Tommy's Road Adventure. I'm sorry, Tommy, I forget what your show's called. Um, I think I got everybody.
Remember 64?
Remember 60. How could I forget Dave? Damn it. Remember 64. Basically, it's an awesome group of content creators over there. And we're working on a bunch of stuff, hopefully getting some blogs out, doing some more live streams and everything. Be sure to check them out. And you can also find in every episode, you can find all of our links at linktree/LiveRU Games. And you can join our Discord community if you want to see some random nonsense every now and then. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Have a good one.